Hello everyone, my name is Richie and welcome back to another video. Today you join me for another what to expect video. As promised in the TrainsimWorld 5.1, I'm going to go into more detail of each of the routes, and today we're going to be having a look at the West Coast Main Line London Euston to Milton Keynes because, well, it's the first route being previewed and I'm very excited for it. So if you've not seen one of these types of videos before from me, I basically have a bit of a deep dive into the route and give you a bit more information. You know, what can we expect timetable wise, from layers, a bit of route scenery, all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, let's jump straight into West Coast Main Line London Euston to Milton Keynes Central. I'm very excited for this. So straight off the bat, let's talk about some initial information. What do we know about the route? What are we getting? All that sort of good stuff. And for this, I've nicked the graphic from the Dovetail Direct because why not? So as you can see, the West Coast Main Line London Euston to Milton Keynes offers 50 miles of track and 28 stations. As you can see from the route map down here, Euston is down here and then we go up through northwest London, I think up towards Watford Junction just before the M25. The M25 crosses around here, I think, in between 20 and 21. And then you do a nice run up to Milton Keynes. I'm very much looking forward to this, I can't wait. The included rolling stock are the Class 350-1, which I'm very excited to see, the 377-2, the Class 66, and interestingly the 1972 stock. I weren't expecting that. And of course we can't ignore that we're getting the Class 390 Pendolino as part of the Deluxe edition. I can't wait to give that a go. So yeah, here's a bit of an overview of the route. It's got 50 miles, 28 stations. It's got the full Lioness line, which is quite cool. You know, it's at Euston to Watford, so that's going to be really cool to do a bit of running with the 710. We're going to see part of the Bakerloo line, which will be quite interesting because a lot of people have been asking for the Bakerloo line to be remastered up to Todd 4. So, you know, the bit that you're above ground will be updated, which will be quite cool. There's some key landmarks like Wembley Stadium. I know they're going to do a few scenarios about that. And of course we've got London Euston Station, which is such a key London termini. And as previously mentioned, the rolling stock is the Class 350, the 377-2, the Class 66 and the 1972 stock. So a lot of stock there that if you don't own any of the previous routes, you know, you don't need to have Brighton Main Line for the 377 and you don't need to have Bakerloo Line for the 1972. So a lot of included stock if you don't have the routes already. And of course the layers that we know about so far are the Class 710 to do the Lioness Line services, the Class 390 which technically is a layer, and the rail tours. Hopefully we see maybe a Class 87 rail tour courtesy of Just Trains, maybe a Flying Scotsman one. You know, I'll go into more detail about them. So let's talk a little bit about the included rolling stock. First off, we've got the Class 350, which is a wonderful little unit. It's such an iconic unit, especially for me growing up in Birmingham. You know, as a kid, I went through Birmingham New Street quite often, up towards Wolverhampton and then Telford and into Wales, and you'd see these all over the place. They'd run on the Birmingham Cross City line between Aston and Birmingham New Street, interestingly. So hopefully that could be a layer we see in the future. But yeah, the 350s as well as the 390s are such icons for me. Here's another wonderful screenshot of the Class 350. You've got two services, one going into Euston and one leaving. I think this is just north of Euston by the looks of things. It's going to be very cool. It's going to be very busy as well. We're going to see a lot of 350s. This is the cab of the 350, which is, you know, it's a pretty standard UK cab. You can't really see much apart from like a little square, but it looks nice. Good to see we've got working GSMR and some other cool little features. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to actually getting behind the seat, the wheel, the lever, what do you want to call it? You know, I'm very much looking forward to driving this. The next piece of rolling stock that we're getting is the Class 37-2, which is the AC variant. Obviously on Brighton Main Line we've got the third rail only variant, so it's going to be cool to have a different version of the 377, although I'm not really a massive fan of Electrostars. We're of course getting the Class 66, as you can see just on the left hand side there. I'm not too sure what station this is at, but a 350 calls there. So yeah, we've got some freight services. And we've got the 1972 stock, which we know very well from Bakerloo Line, but it's going to be so cool to run part of the Bakerloo Line and have the 350s and the 390s and whatever else zooming past. And also having the 710 on the Bakerloo Line now as well. That'll be quite cool. So yeah, a bit of an overview of the included rolling stock. We've got the Class 350, which is a modern EMU, a 4-car EMU. It's a part of the DeZero family, so it's going to sound very similar to the 700 and the 380. And it operates express and commuter services along the West Coast Main Line. The Southern Class 377-2 is a 4-car Electrostar and we're getting the AC variant. And we're mainly going to see these operated between Wembley Central and Watford Junction. I think some of them go up to Hemel Hempstead. I'm not too sure how accurate that is. As for the 1972 stock, this is the oldest piece of rolling stock on the London Underground network, I believe, and it will operate between Queen's Park and Harrow and Wilston, so a lot of the services that we already have in Bakerloo line should port over to the West Coast Main Line South. We've got the Class 66, again, the 7th version, I think, of the Class 66, which we keep seeing. We keep seeing it, don't we? But it's, you know, it's kind of the most frequently used freight loco anyway, so it kind of makes sense why they keep using it. It'd be cool to see some other freight locos, don't get me wrong, but the Class 66 is pretty much seen everywhere, so it kind of works. And of course we've got the Class 390 Pendolino, which I'll come on to now. The Deluxe Edition DLC, let's talk about it. So here we go, as part of the Deluxe Edition you get this wonderful piece of work. Look at this, the Avanti West Coast Pendolino. I can't wait to give this a go. I'm more excited for this, and I think a lot of people are more excited for this than the 350 and for the route in general. It's going to be fantastic giving this a go. There we go, that's the cab of the 390. I'm going to be seeing that an awful lot when I'm playing it, but it looks really nice inside, nice and sleek. It's a little bit off centre, so that might throw me off a little bit, but it looks nice. I can't wait to give it a go. So yeah, the Class 390 Pendolino, it's an iconic train. Everyone knows a Pendolino or has seen a Pendolino at some point in the UK. They are so iconic and just, they look stunning. It's got a bit of tilting technology, so when we're going across the route, it's going to be doing a lot of funky movements, especially if you want to put this on the over Shap route on Just Trains West Coast Main Line over Shap. That'll be cool because there's a lot of twists and turns on that route, so it's going to be a very cool experience. Of course, it's very highly requested by the community. I've seen so many threads on the forums suggesting a Class 390, and here we go, we're finally getting it. And of course, this comes in the 9 and 11 car variants, so we're going to see different variants and different sort of service patterns with the Class 390, which is going to be quite cool. If you want to pick up the Class 390, you do have to get the Deluxe Edition, which is about 60 quid, or if you take advantage of the 10% off loyalty discount, it'll be 54 quid. Or if you want to wait until the release day, which is the 17th of September, it's available separately for £14.99, which is the same price as the seller. So not a bad price at all for a standard Loco DLC, but works out a bit cheaper if you get the Deluxe Edition. So on to the layers for this route, and I don't think we're going to see many layers because there is a lot of included rolling stock. So, you know, you've got the 1972 stock and the freight that are included as part of the pack, so they would normally technically be layers. But in this case, we're only getting the Class 710 as a layer, that we know of anyway. Hopefully there's some rail tours and stuff which I'll touch on in a second. But yeah, we got the Class 710 which comes in as a layer if you own the Suffragette line, and it operates the Lioness line services. So here, a bit of information on the Class 710. It's a relatively new unit and it was introduced in 2019. It's a single handle EMU and it's very similar to the Class 700 in the way it operates. The Class 710s replaced the Class 378s, and I believe they replaced the 172s, is that right? I've probably got that wrong. And they were also built by Bombardier at their Derby Litchurch Lane works. And for the West Coast Main Line, London Euston to Milton Keynes, you'll see these operating all of the Lioness services, which is quite a lot. As for some rail tours, hopefully a diesel one like a Class 47, hopefully a Class 87 electric rail tour, that'll be quite cool, and definitely got to see a Flying Scotsman. And some other layers that we could see, definitely see the RHTT, I can imagine that'll be on the route. So next, let's have a little dive into the timetable. I've gone and done some research and I've got some screenshots from the actual operator's timetables, so let's have a look. We've got this one, which is the London North Western timetable, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of trains. So yeah, as you can see from this timetable, we've got 2 trains per hour that go between London Euston and Milton Keynes, calling that most stops. And then you've got another 2 trains per hour that go to Tring, I think, if I'm reading that correctly. And you've got another 2 trains per hour which go beyond Milton Keynes towards Birmingham and Liverpool and Crewe and all sorts of places like that. So roughly 6 trains per hour with the Class 350. You can also see on that timetable there, you've got the Southern services where it says SN, and they are every hour, I think. This is taken from the Lioness line timetable, and you can quite clearly see that this has got 4 trains per hour. They operate every 15 minutes. These are all, you know, one direction, so you got to times these by 2, so there'd be like, what, 8 trains per hour for the 710 and 12 trains per hour for the Class 350. It adds up very quickly. And this is taken from the Avanti West Coast timetable, and as you can see, I think about 3 to 4 trains per hour will be able to drive because they stop at Milton Keynes. They did say in today's article that any trains that don't stop at Milton Keynes Central will be AI only, a bit similar to East Coast Main Line, so I'm going to guess around 3 to 4 trains per hour with the Pendolino. One of these services an hour does actually call at Watford Junction as well, so there'll be a bit of a variation in service pattern with the Class 390. So here's a bit of a breakdown of the timetable. We've got the Class 350, which will be doing 2 trains per hour between Euston and Tring, then another 2 trains per hour between Euston and Milton Keynes, calling that all stops. And we've got another 2 trains per hour which would go further than Milton Keynes up towards Birmingham and Crewe and wherever else. So 6 trains per hour with the Class 350. That's a lot of trains. With the Class 377-2, we'll have 1 train per hour between Wembley and Watford, so I think these will be around about 30-minute services, and these are hourly. As I just showed you with the Line S timetable, the Class 710 will offer a further 4 trains per hour between Euston and Watford. As for the 1972 stock, I've took this from the Bakerloo line timetable, and 4 trains per hour go between Queen's Park and Stonebridge Park, and another 4 trains go up towards Harrow and Wilston, so 8 trains per hour with the 1972 stock. As for the Class 390, 3 to 4 trains per hour will be playable, but there will be upwards of about 8 trains per hour that we'll see with the Class 390, but obviously half of them don't stop at Milton Keynes. And of course we'll have some freight and some rail tours mixed in as well. So if my maths is correct, hold on, let me get my calculator. So we've got 6 trains per hour with the Class 350, plus another 1 for the 377, plus 4 for the 710, plus 8 for the 1972 stock, and let's say 3 with the 390, just to underestimate. So that equals 22 trains per hour in each direction. And those 22 trains per hour is just one direction. So obviously if we times that by 2, that's bi-directional. So 44 trains each way. That's pretty nuts. So we've got 44 trains per hour. If we times that, I'm going to say by about 18, because most timetables don't run overnight. Sometimes you will see overnight running, but let's just say that most of the services run between like 6 o'clock in the morning and like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. So according to my calculations, we're going to get somewhere in between 600 and 800 services, which is a pretty massive timetable. I think that's going to be what, the second biggest timetable? If not, South Eastern High Speed just about beats it. So yeah, we're going to have a pretty insane timetable, and you know, the southern half of the route between Watford and Euston is going to be insanely busy. You'll probably be racing 2 or 3 trains at one time. So we've talked a little bit about the timetables and the layers and obviously the Deluxe Edition DLC, but let's talk about some potential DLC. You know, what could they add to this? And I feel like they will add another DLC to this because they sometimes do with core routes. So I've got a few options. Normally I only suggest 1 piece of rolling stock, but I'm going to suggest 3 in this one. 2 of which kind of provide the same thing, but another one is a whole different experience, and it's quite interesting, so let's jump into them. The first of which is the Class 319. A lot of people have said that they would like to see the Class 319 because it adds a bit of retro running, and also I suppose you could have it on like a future northern route as well, because a lot of them have gone up north. But yeah, Class 319. I'm a bit indifferent with this. I'm not too sure what it would add. Probably just, you know, add in a bit of variation. Won't probably add in too many services. But yeah, 319. The other suggestion I've got is the Class 730. Now, the reason I'm suggesting this is that we could see a Birmingham Cross City 730 pack, which could mean that the Class 390 and 350 get layered into Birmingham New Street. So I feel like that would be a really nice one, and also is the most realistic one, because then they could layer the 730 back into the West Coast Main Line, or however they want to work it. But you would have these, you'd have these in West Midlands Railway livery and London North Western Railway livery, and it would be, what, the newest train on the network, if they was to include it, so could be a cool one to see. And the last one I'm suggesting is a little bit far-fetched, but it's the Class 325, the Royal Mail train. I think, you know, to add in a different sort of experience, I feel like a Royal Mail train would fit in quite nicely. I feel like this could be a really nice little DLC. Adds a little bit of quirkiness. Obviously, they need to get the Royal Mail brand in. I don't know how easy that would be to get, but I suppose that would be quite a cool DLC as well. So yeah, the Class 319 is highly requested, little electric multiple unit which was built in the 1980s, and again it could be used for other operators, so probably not my first choice, but a lot of people's suggestion, so I can understand the appeal for it. As for the Class 730, it's a nice new train that entered service last year, and it could layer onto the Birmingham Cross City and bring in, you know, a whole new timetable, similar to how the Class 380 revitalised the timetable in Cathcart Circle. So definitely one we could see. And yeah, as for the quirky DLC, the Class 325, the parcel train. So I feel like that'd be quite cool to see. I don't think it'd add too much service-wise, but when I've watched Trains App videos along the West Coast Main Line, it's quite a key thing that you see quite often. So yeah, definitely would be cool to add in a bit of variation. So on to our penultimate section, the route features. What sort of key landmarks can you see along this route? First off, you've got Milton Keynes Central, which is, it's not really a landmark, but it's more of a key station. There's a lot of Trains App videos here. You've obviously got that big glass sort of building behind. Milton Keynes as a whole is quite an interesting place, simply because it's like a whole grid layout, isn't it? It's quite bizarre. You've obviously got London Euston Station, which is such a key termini, and you've got the lovely London skyline in the background there, which I hope we'll see. I think we'll also see the BT Tower, won't we, just near the station. But yeah, this is definitely a cool one to see, and you'll see all the HS2 works as well, which because it's set modern day, so I can imagine you'll see all the HS2 works. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing Euston Station, and I've heard rumours that you can go into the concourse, so that'll be quite cool. This is a very low res picture. I didn't mean it to be so low res, but this is, if you can make it out, the Euston depot. I'm not too sure whereabouts this is, but the Euston depot is obviously where the Pendolinos are maintained, which will be along the route somewhere, can't quite remember. But yeah, that'll be a cool little addition. As you can see, there's some Voyagers in there. And of course, for you football fans, Wembley Stadium, which I think pretty much everyone knows what Wembley Stadium is. A very key stadium for English football. So yeah, we'll see that from the line. You can see that in the Bakerloo line, but again, it'll be a key part of the skyline on this route, which will be quite cool. So yeah, some route features. We've got some landmarks in the form of the London skyline, Wembley Stadium and the Euston TMD. We've also got part of the Bakerloo line, and also I think somewhere near, is it near Watford, you've got the Warner Brothers studio, which is where Harry Potter was filmed. So maybe we could see like a cool scenario about the about Harry Potter or something like that, which would be quite cool. And of course, we've got some key stations in the form of London Euston, Milton Keynes and Watford Junction. Obviously, London Euston being such a key termini that I'm really looking forward to seeing. And that's it. That is what you can expect to see from the West Coast Main Line, London Euston to Milton Keynes Central. What do you think about this route? Are you looking forward to it? Are you excited for it? Let me know in the comments down below. As for my final thoughts on this route, I am so excited to see this. This is probably the only reason I bought Tracing World 5, to be honest, is simply because I want to see the West Coast Main Line. You know, everyone has been suggesting this for years, and the Pendolino, it's going to be a fantastic route, and I can imagine if they do the timetable justice, it's probably going to have the scope of being the best Tracing World DLC ever. And of course, we're going to see the Class 350 and the Class 390 Pendolino, which everyone's so hyped to see. So I hope that this video has built up some hype for you, and we get some questions answered in the preview stream tomorrow. I'm very much looking forward to this. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please smash that like button and subscribe. If you're new, I'd massively appreciate it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you all in the next video. Bye bye.